So I want to do another update on the World Cup. As we've gone through now the first round of games, and now have this started today with the first of the second games. Bear with me, hair and I look like flush, but it's been about 250 degrees in Baltimore the last 2 days, and well, hair doesn't handle well in this kind of weather. So really quickly, I'm just going to go group by group and do it that way. So in the first group, actually, we now have two games completed. So we have Russia leading the table with 6 points. Then we have, hold on, there we go. So Russia leading with 6 points. Uruguay right now at 3 points. Egypt and Saudi are at 0 points. Now, Russia and Egypt have played 2 games. Uruguay has and Saudi are playing tomorrow. So it's kind of hard to fully say what's going to happen. But at this point, it looks very clear that, I don't see Saudi beating Uruguay after the first round performances. Russia is all but in, and we should be seeing that finish up with the Uruguay victory. Egypt is all but out, and Saudi also all but out. So this is a pretty cut and dry group, and we'll see what happens from there. But it basically, the takeaways right now are Russia really has outperformed expectations. They are scoring like crazy. Particularly Cherchev, their attacking player, who actually was started out on the bench in the first game, and is now the joint leader of goal scoring in the tournament, other than own goals. So we'll see what happens. They haven't had really tough competition, and usually the home team does overperform a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they move into the knockout stages. Whether that can continue. Usually that doesn't happen, but it has happened, and we've seen it in particular in 2002 with South Korea. We're getting all the way to the semis. So that will be an interesting thing. Really, the team to watch in this is Uruguay. They were very mediocre in the first game. You got to expect them to come out and play a lot better in this game. When you have Luis Suarez, when you have Edson Cavani, two of the top goal scorers in the world, when you have the guys they have on defense, and Godin and Jimenez, who play for Atletico Madrid, who's a top team in Spain, you got to expect that they'll be one to watch in the knockout rounds. So that'll be something to watch and to see what happens. But pretty much this group is pretty much cut and dry. The next group, again, full disclosure, I have a major rooting interest here in Iran. Behind the U.S. is my number 2 team. So, with the U.S. not in, so it's only Iran this time. So, right now, interestingly, they have taken the lead in the group with 3 points, having beaten Morocco on a 94th minute own goal off a free kick, which is pretty epic. And Portugal and Spain played probably one of the best, if not the best game of the tournament. Germany, Mexico would probably have something to say about that. 3-3. So they're at 1 point. Still, you got to say Portugal and Spain are the favorites to get out of their group, being that they have just so much more talent than the other two teams. At the same time, Morocco is pretty much toast. Unlikely to see them be able to get 2 results out of Portugal and Spain. So they got their work cut out. Iran, that win really gives them a chance. They know their style, they know what they are, and that's more than you can say for a lot of teams that are maybe arrogant and think they're better than they are. Iran knows that their way to victory is hold, play your defense, keep your shape, hold the line, and then just try and catch it on the counter, or just hope something goes in, just like what happened in against Morocco. It's going to be about 100-fold harder when you're playing against the talent that Spain, and I don't even single out names because their whole roster is top players. So their goal is basically going to be withstand the onslaught and hold on for dear life, and then try and sneak them with a couple counterattacks and free kicks. It's been done before. Spain did it. I mean, Switzerland did it years back, and the U.S. did actually in a Confederations Cup years back. So it can be done. It's just really it's a tough ask. But their advantage is they don't have to lose. Even if they lose, they still got a shot at Portugal. So as for Portugal and Morocco, again, I still think probably Spain, Portugal get out of this group, but Iran's got a shot there. Morocco, I don't see them going anywhere after this. That last game was kind of a soul-crushing game. I think their time is up here. Spain and Denmark are in 3 points in Group C, while Australia and Peru are in 2. About what you'd expect. I mean, France and Denmark. France is by far the class of that group. They should go through, frankly, with 9 points, but they do have a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde deal. Sometimes they shut off, in particular, I think of a friendly right before the tournament where at full strength they managed only a 1-1 draw against a rebuilding, almost youth level, very, very young U.S. team. So most likely, I mean, this is probably going to be a France-Denmark, but you got to give a shot to Australia and Peru still. Australia, I think, will have its crack at Denmark. I believe Peru already lost to Denmark, so that'll make things a little bit tougher. But, I mean, there's still all to play for in this group. But I think probably it'll be France and Denmark. And we'll see what happens. If Denmark trips up, then that Australia-Peru game could be very critical. Group D, you got Croatia, Iceland. Croatia on 3 points, Iceland and Argentina surprisingly on 1 point, and Nigeria on 0 points. Croatia taking down Nigeria. Nigeria did not look convincing in the slightest, which is disappointing because they definitely got some good players, but Croatia is also a pretty loaded team. I think Croatia will most likely get through, but I think this is a wide open group because that Iceland-Argentina game going 0-0, one of the bigger shocks of the tournament. Although, if you've seen Iceland, you know, even though they're a tiny, tiny country, they got some dudes, and they also have a very cohesive team. The sum is greater than the parts, so to speak, and a lot of information. I'd encourage you to go check out any documentary on Iceland and their rise. It really is a David and Goliath thing going on there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Messi, though. If Messi turns it on, Argentina should still run away with that group. Having said that, Argentina could well be the big team that gets left out because it's almost like it's Messi and everyone else, and Messi's trying, but it's not working out, and the rest of the team just seems really disorganized, and they just seemed really out of ideas against Iceland. Yeah. I don't know if I said it was a 0-0. I believe it was actually a 1-1, but I don't actually remember, but pretty sure it was 1-1. Anyways, it's not important. Point is, this group's wide open. I think Croatia, Iceland, Argentina, I think are going to be the ones who hash it out. I think Croatia gets in, and then the second spot's going to be Iceland or Argentina. That's what I'm thinking right now. Group E, another shocker. Brazil ties Switzerland. Again, you know, what are you going to do? Those first games are tricky, and Switzerland has a lot of quality players who play in big leagues in Europe, not anywhere near the level of Brazil, but they're a team, again, that knows what they're doing. They have their system. They have an identity, and they play their game. Serbia took down Costa Rica. Again, Costa Rica looked really disappointing after how well they did in the last World Cup. I don't see them getting out of this hole, considering they still have to play Swiss and Brazil. But I think Brazil, you still got to give the nod to go through. They're just too stacked to not get out of the group. And I think that Serbia-Switzerland now is really the interesting one to watch between those two. I would give favor, even though they're behind. I'd say I like the Swiss to beat the Serbians, but Serbia showed me something. I was surprised. Did not expect that. Group F. Sweden, Mexico take the wins. South Korea, Germany take the losses. South Korea, forget about them. I said it at the beginning. This is a team that's arrogant, that thinks they're better than they are. Unlike Iran, who has worked them over pretty good in the last couple of qualifying, who sits back and knows who they are. South Korea has some good players, has potential, but they're just not. They haven't been a well-coached team. They just don't seem like they show up for the big games. I don't know if it's pressure or what, but I don't see them going anywhere here. And that makes it very interesting, though, now with Germany on 0 points. How will they rebound? Because Sweden looked really strong against South Korea. And Mexico, how about Mexico? A team I will never root for as a U.S. fan, but you got to give them all the credit in the world and give them a lot of props because they caught Germany and they really just caught them, and Germany could not recover. Germany looked out of ideas, just could not break down Mexico in the slightest. And Mexico just with a masterpiece of a game, beautifully coached, and the performance of the World Cup so far. If they continue to play like that, they could be a dark horse to make it to the semis or even the finals there. And they got talent. There's no denying that. They have been a sleeping giant for a long time that always underperformed, but they look like they come to play and they look very cohesive. And they're a team to watch. End of story. They're the team of the tournament so far. Germany, you guys see. Sometimes teams lose their first game. Spain did it. I think in 2010 they lost to Switzerland out of nowhere. Then they didn't lose a game the rest of the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think this is a Germany-Mexico group to come out. I don't think Sweden can hold on, but I think that has a lot more to do with Germany than Sweden, frankly. Goddamn, so many groups. So next we got Group G. Belgium, England on 3 points, Tunisia, Panama on 0 points. This is a chalk group. I don't know if it says a whole lot about Belgium and England, how good they are, as much as just the bottom two group teams in that group suck, to put it bluntly. Tunisia sucks. Tunisia is a lot like, they just suck. They're a lot like England, except they don't have any talent, in terms of how they choke. In Panama, they're just not. They lucked out to get in the tournament based on other teams choking. They're trying their best, and they got some good regional level players like who play for MLS and stuff, but they're not going to be able to match up against this level. But for them really making it, they got to give credit. I mean, they made it, and I think they could actually take some points off Tunisia because Tunisia is dreadful. And, against England, you never know. England did not look at all good in their first game, and they had to count on, and as usual, Harry Kane coming and saving their backsides with a late goal. Not impressed in the slightest by England. I don't see them as a team going very far, but they will make it out of the group, and so will Belgium. This one, mark it down, it's over. And lastly, the group of the upset, kind of the anti-chalk group. You had Japan today pulling a stunner on Colombia, who was definitely the group favorite. And they caught them 3 minutes in, handball, red card, and then to their credit, they did give up a goal, but they kept fighting. I don't know if they're going to go very far, but this is a good, they're in the Asian Confederation. They're limited in terms of talent, but they are a good team that they got a few players like Shinji Kagawa, who plays at Dortmund still, I think. But they know what they're doing. They played a good cohesive game, and Colombia not having James to start the game. James Rodriguez, kind of their big gun, start game, and obviously the early red card, only red card actually the first round, which is pretty unprecedented. That set them behind, and they weren't able to really match up. And I think now I can't even guess what's going to happen in this group, because then on the other side, Senegal takes down Poland. Another shocker when you think of what Poland's got with guys like Blaszczykowski and Lewandowski. They got players playing in high level Europe, and you would have thought that they couldn't do anything against Senegal, but Senegal was very, they were opportunistic. They took advantage of their chances. There was a controversial goal there, but that wasn't the player's fault. That was the ref's fault for letting the guy on the field. And to his credit, he took advantage of it. So, and they got a guy in Mane who plays in Liverpool. They got some good players. So, I mean, I think, to be perfectly honest, I could not guess what happens in this group. Right now, I think what I will say about this is I think one of Colombia or Poland will pull themselves back into the top two. One of Japan and Senegal will go down. So I will say Colombia and Senegal go through. But yeah, that was an unexpected. Poland shocked me with how bad they looked, and Senegal shocked me with how good they looked. So that's why I'm going to go with that. So anyways, one game in, like I said, between the first and second game, there's a lot of things can change. We'll see what happens, and I'll do another one of these after the second set of games and continue onward. So we'll see what happens in this next round. Tomorrow, like I said, we have some really good, interesting games. Not so much Uruguay, Saudi Arabia. That should be if you want to see a lot of goals one-sided, that's the game to see. But Spain, Iran, where I have a rooting interest. Again, on paper, it shouldn't be a close one, but Iran knows what they have to do. They have a strategy. They have a good coach who knows Spain and Portugal and is very familiar being Portuguese, having coached in Spain. He knows he knows what he's the style that he's going up against. So it'll be interesting to see how long Iran can hold, and if so, and if they can nip them on a counterattack. Portugal, Morocco, another very interesting game. Morocco looks cooked though after giving up an own goal in the 94th minute. But you never know. They got some talent, but I see more goals for Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal winning that one relatively comfortably. So we'll see what happens. And until next time,